All right, welcome to the Making Conservatism Look Cool podcast. Today, I have a brother. Man, I've been following this guy for about a year and some change. Man, I love his content. I'm pretty sure that a lot of you guys who have watched this brother, you'll learn a lot from his content. Man, very solid guy. Actually came on the podcast on the platform earlier than me. I got to give him a lot of respect for that. A lot of respect for that, man. So, with no further ado, man, I got to introduce to the Making of Conservatism, the Cool podcast, the one, the only, Oliver Mack, aka Right Wing Angel. What's going on, brother?
Hey, not much, man. I'm so glad to be here.
No. The honor is all mine, brother.
Yeah, hey,
So, look,
hey.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, whenever I have a chance to spread this message to other platforms and speak to other people on the things that I like to speak about, I mean, it's a joy for me. So it's not just for you; it's for me too.
Oh man, I appreciate that, man. I really do, man. Like I said, I've been following you for a lot, and I got some things that I really want to tap into. Because I feel that you're a very interesting person, man, and I appreciate you for the work that you do. It comes off as authentic. It comes off as very genuine, and it comes off as somebody that, like myself, who cannot be bought and they're not compromised. So I try to link
Yeah,
myself in, with individuals like yourself, brother.
yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. Let's get past all the buddy stuff, man. So look, hey Oliver, I want to ask you this, man. A lot of people they don't, some people who they see your content, they see your content. They see the your Instagram page. You put out a lot of informative information. Well, I'm being redundant the way I just used that, but you put out a lot of very
Hmm.
great information. And with
Yeah.
that being said, a lot of people don't know who Oliver Mack is. So I want to go back, man. When did this conservative journey start? I always like to ask my guests that.
Well, it started. I would say probably because I was a Bernie Sanders supporter in like 2015. I wasn't voting for Trump, wasn't voting for Hillary. I was big Bernie bro back then because I just kind of felt like there was these shadow figures in our government who were controlling everything, and the little people like us were just being pooped on by the government. So that was kind of my gateway into a different way of thinking, not aligning myself particularly with the Democrat Party, but kind of just going, independent, going the independent route. But I wasn't a Republican, didn't have Republican or conservative values, I thought back then. But it wasn't until 2019 when I found out that I was a conservative, that I found out that Donald Trump was being lied about, that everything that I thought I knew about my political beliefs were actually not what I thought they were. And I started to talk to my friends about this new way of thinking that I had, and they started thinking I was crazy. They started calling me, all kind of names, coon, Uncle Tom, different things like that, because although I wasn't like, staunchly Republican back then, I
Right.
was totally anti Black Lives Matter, right? Because I'm from New Orleans. So I've seen a lot in a city where I lived and grew up. I can't count on two hands how many people I know personally that have been murdered in my
Right.
hometown. So
Okay.
seeing that and being in that environment, it's like, okay, how do we fix this? Because I got so tired of seeing these things happening every single day, and I just wanted to see a change. And what the Democrats were presenting was not going to fix anything with the Black Lives Matter movement and making excuses for how black people were acting. Oh, it's all about slavery. It's all about
Right.
white supremacy. It's racism making us do these things. And I'm like, hold up. I grew up around these people. I've seen these things happen. And there was never any white people that was
Right.
causing any black person. Nobody that I know that got murdered in my hometown was murdered by a white person or
Right.
murdered by a black person who was influenced by a white person, right? So when you're seeing these things and you're hearing the party that you've been voting for since you
Right.
were able to vote, talking about things that you know is not going to benefit your community, is actually going to be a detriment to your community. That's when I say, you know what, I'm done with the Democrat Party. And then I voted Republican for the first time in 2020. I voted for Donald Trump.
2020.
But yeah, in 2019, that's when I started my Instagram page, because I got tired of my friends like saying I was crazy for the way that I was thinking. So I found some conservatives on YouTube who believe what I believe, and it wasn't like I knew they were conservatives. It was just like, okay, yeah, they're saying it's the things that I say to my friends,
Right.
and then
Right.
I found out they all had something in common. Oh, they're conservative. Oh, this is what
Right.
conservatives believe. Oh, I agree with
Right.
that. This is what conservatives want for the black community. Oh, I agree with that. That aligns exactly with what I want for the black community. So
Mm-hmm.
that's when I found out that I was a conservative, and started pushing my values and ideals to people that I knew, and they rejected it. So I said, you know what? I got to find somewhere where I can talk about this stuff. I know my wife don't want to hear me talk about this stuff all the time. So I started this Instagram page with hopes of one day starting a YouTube channel, which I was able to do later on. But the Instagram page was just a gateway and into me trying to discuss and trying to put my views and ideals out there. And I was lucky that people actually agree with what I had to say.
No, that's beautiful, man. I like how you were able to, bring forth these ideas to a platform, and share these things with other people. And you were able to, find a community that is accepting of who you are and who your values is, what your values represent based on, things outside of your pigmentation. And I think that's very
Yeah.
important because, a lot of us in the black community, what we're told is you have to align yourself with people that look like you.
Hmm.
And I always find that to be a detriment to us as black people, because in the event that someone does not agree with you, you're basically aligning yourself with somebody that is literally hostile to your worldview. So I wanted so
Hmm.
you mentioned you were sharing some of these ideas with with your peers and things like that back home. I take it you're still in the
Hmm.
New Orleans area.
No, I'm actually in Houston.
Oh, you're in Houston.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so
I saw one too many murders and I had to get out. So that's why I moved
you had
here.
to get so hold on, because I've been to Houston. Is Houston really like any much better? Like,
No, well,
is it
I
much?
say Houston. I live in the suburbs of Houston. I don't
What
live
is it
in
like?
the
Sugar
Houston
Land?
area. I live in Richmond.
Uh, okay, I never heard of that.
Richmond,
I know
Richmond,
like
which is south of Katy, Texas.
okay, I know where that's at. I know
Yeah.
Pearl
So
Land and
I, so
Sugar
I
Land.
moved. Yeah. So I moved away from black people and I stay around white people. Let me be honest with you.
They go hate you for that one right there, man. They but you know what
Hey, I don't care, but that's what happens. That's what happens whenever a black person gets some money. They don't go stay around a bunch of black people. They move around to white people. That's just what it is.
No, that's a fact. That's a fact, and it's funny that you say that because, you know, a lot of times people look at people like myself. I don't know how old you. I'll take it probably around the same age. I'm 40. People get tired of me always telling my age, but I'm 43. I'm proud of it. You might be a little
I'm
bit younger,
41.
whatever. But
I'm 41.
okay, so I was pretty close. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, a lot of times they look at individuals like myself and they look at individuals like you, and they act like we never grew up around black people. They see us
Right.
espouse these type of views, and they think that we come from a different community. So
Yeah.
when you how were you able to translate these ideas, and what was your response? How were you able to translate these ideas, and what was the response like when you started to see people gravitate towards your content? Because you got a pretty big platform as far as social media, and your YouTube is doing really well. So what was the feeling like to see the response to that?
Oh, it was incredible because when you've been told you're crazy and nobody wants to listen to you for a long time, and then you actually find your audience. It's an incredible
Right.
feeling. And it wasn't just about finding an audience. It was about finding a community of people who accepted the way I see the world, and that's exactly what it was. So it was great, and I won't even lie to you. When I first started, I was pretty overzealous in my approach with people. It was kind of like, oh my God, my eyes are open. Now I want your eyes to be open, and I was coming at people like, don't you see this? Like, why can't you see this? And I grew in my beliefs over time, and started to tailor my approach. And I think I did that on Instagram also, because I think when I first started, it was all about, oh, Trump, 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 Trump,
Right.
Trump. It was all about
Yeah.
that. And then I started noticing, I was like, you know what? That's not really my wheelhouse. My real
Mm-hmm.
wheelhouse is not just talking about politics all day, all the time, and talking about
Right.
Republicans and Democrats. Like that's not really what gets me excited. What gets me excited
Right.
is talking about the culture and the things that we
Mm-hmm.
need to fix in our culture. So that's what I feel like I brought as a conservative influencer. I started talking more about cultural issues, and I'll be, I hate to toot my own horn, but sometimes I got to do it. But I feel like I was one of the first people on social media, like a conservative influencer, who was actually talking about cultural issues, who was talking about like rap music and different rappers
Right.
and different things like that.
Right.
Like I think when I first started, most conservative influence was were just talking about politics.
Politics.
Right. It
Right.
was all about politics. But
Yeah.
I remember one of my first posts that did pretty well. I was talking about Takashi 69 and this Mexican actress who said the N word. Like that was one of the,
Right.
the first things that I posted, and that did really well. So I felt like I kind of bridged the gap between the culture and politics. And of course, now you see a lot of conservative influencers, especially the black ones, who are talking about
Right.
culture probably a lot more than they talk about politics, because politics is downstream from culture. So if you can actually influence the culture, and that's what I said also, it's basically, there were a lot of conservative influencers that are out there that were telling black people, hey, just vote for Trump. Hey, just vote Republican. Hey, just vote red. But I'm like,
Right.
you can tell them to do that, but unless you change the way they think, they're not going to change the way they vote. So that should be
That
number
part.
one. You have to change the way black people think in order to
Right.
change the way they vote. And I think if you change the way they think, they will vote differently automatically, because that's what happened to
Automatically.
me. Right. That's what
Right.
happened to me. It was like when I changed the way I thought and the way I saw the world, then voting for Trump was like a no-brainer. Like I didn't even have to
Right.
think about it. It's like his values and the things that he's talking about, his platform aligns with the way that I see the world, aligns with the way that I want things for the country. So
Okay.
it's a no-brainer. So that's what you really have to focus on, and I hope more conservative influencers, especially the black ones, can see that. Like you have to talk about these culture issues. You have to talk about the things that you see. And people get mad at me like every day. Even conservatives get mad at me for pointing out these
You said they get
these
mad at
negative videos.
you.
Yeah, they get so mad at me for pointing out these negative videos about black people. And I'm like, well, I need people to wake up and understand that this is an issue, and we
Right.
can't ignore it. We can't sweep this under the rug and say, yeah, don't worry about that. Just vote for Trump. Like, no, they're not.
No, I agree 100%, and I love how you just, how you touched on, just by changing, just by individuals changing, the way that they see the world by osmosis, that's going to be a reflection. I'm kind of paraphrasing what you're saying, but by osmosis,
Hmm.
that's going to be a reflection in the way that they vote.
Yeah.
And I love the way that you mentioned that, because a lot of times you go on you look at these conservative platforms and it's just politics 24/7. And I will give you credit, you were one of the guys that were able to mesh these talking points regarding to, I don't want to say talking points, but conservative commentary and pop cultural commentary. So that's one of the things
Hmm.
I do love about what you do. So what I've also, I want to ask you this, Oliver. With your platform growing, and it look like it's just, it's continue to grow every day. What do you say to the people that, because I hear we get this on this side for some reason. I don't know why the left don't get this, but what do you say to the individuals who say, "Oh, you're cooning, you're grifting, you're caping for the white man"? What do you say to these individuals?
Well, it was years before I ever made a dime off Instagram. So
Okay.
I would dedicate my time, and I barely make anything off Instagram today, just to share that with you. But I
Mm.
dedicated a lot of time, a lot of energy into
Okay.
posting what I was posting, and I wasn't getting much out of it except for followers. But I mean, what are followers? They're not paying my bills.
Right.
They're not paying my bills. You know that they're not enriching my life in any way. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
number, right? There's more people that may support you, but are they giving you money? Like, are they buying
Right.
your t-shirts? Like, not really. So
Mm-hmm.
I invested so much time and energy into something that I wasn't getting a lot back from. So I did it because I love to be able to spread this message. I did it because I am invested in trying to save our country. I did it because I identified a problem and multiple problems that needed to be fixed. And
Right.
the only selfish reason I did this for was because I want my son to be able to grow up in a better world.
Right. No, I love that. I love that, man. I like how you speak your mind. You speak up for the voiceless, because a lot of times there are so many people out here that agree with the things that you say, that agree with the things that I say, but they don't have the platform that you have. So the fact that individuals like yourself, you don't look down at individuals. You're able to convey the things that they may not be able to articulate. So you ever, when you think about that,
Hmm.
man, how does that make you feel?
Oh, it makes me feel good. I mean, but I do tell people, like, I have a platform, I have a
Right.
voice, or
Right.
you may not have a platform, but you always have a
Mm-hmm.
voice. We all have a
Right.
voice. We may not be articulate. I mean, I don't think I'm very articulate at all. But we may not be articulate. We may not be able to speak as clearly as other people, but you
Right.
still have a voice. And unless you
Mm.
use your voice, bad things will continue to happen. You know, we saw it with COVID and the mandates and the masking and all this
Right.
stuff. It was only able to happen because too many people were silent. It didn't
Mm.
stand up for themselves. So with everything that's going on, the more people are silent, the more it's going to happen. So even though
Right.
you may not have a platform, even though you may not be articulate, you may not be able to, speak like a Ben Shapiro, somebody like that, you still have a voice and you still can make your voice heard, whether it be in online, whether it be at work, whether it's at your kid's
Mm-hmm.
school, you can always make your voice heard. So hopefully I'm influencing people not to just be influencers, but
Right.
to influence their environment, to influence
Mm.
their neighborhoods, influence their communities.
Nah, I love it. I love it, man. I wanna. You mentioned Ben Shapiro, and that's going to segue
Hmm.
into the actual topic of this actual discussion. And the
Yeah.
title of this is Candace Owens, Angel Reese, and the media's manipulation of black women, with my guest, yours truly. So, with that being
Hmm.
said, like I said, you mentioned Ben Shapiro.
Hmm.
Candace Owens has recently came under fire with her quote unquote remarks in regarding to the Israeli Hamas war. And, recently she has been, I believe last week she was let go by the Daily Wire. And, you see people like her. You also see the alternative to her, which is individuals like Angel Reese and the women of this certain on this spectrum that is like the polar opposite of Candace Owens. So,
Hmm.
what's your whole take on the whole Candace Owens situation? 'Cause I know you've done some content in regarding to that, but I'm curious to get your whole take on conservatives such as Candace Owens, conservative women such as Candace Owens, and what does she mean? What do you think her role play in this whole space? What's your whole take on that situation?
Well, Candace Owens was one of the people when I was on my conservative journey that I actually listened to. So I would say
Okay.
she played a big role in my conversion. So I think she's a very influential person. She speaks very well, very articulate. She has some opinions that didn't align with what the Daily Wire wanted on their platform, which is kind of weird to me because I feel like if you're an advocate of free speech, then anyone who may question your you know not I mean I can't like people would think that if she's questioning the Israeli government's actions and she's questioning or saying something negative about Jewish people. Like I don't really
Right.
see the alignment, but I know many people do. That's just not me. I mean, I'm America
But
first, like
hold on,
no
time
matter
out,
what.
time out. I want before you
Uh-huh.
finish your thought, and I don't want you to lose. I'm gonna put a pin in wherever you're about to go. Let's,
Yeah.
but I want you like to those who feel that way, to or to those who you think feel that way. Why do you think they feel that way? As far as saying, as far as you're saying that they feel like she's attacking the people of Israel by some of her views. Why do you think they
Well,
feel
I
that way?
guess I guess you I mean, I don't know because I'm not Jewish and I
No,
know
I'm just
some
asking.
Jewish
Like, why
people.
do you think? Why do you think?
Oh,
What's your
yeah.
opinion?
Well, I mean, my opinion is people have I think Jewish people have an allegiance to Israel. And I think that a lot of Christians have an allegiance to Israel. So if you and they made it like a part of their being, so to speak. Like their religious views are tied to Israel for some reason. I don't know why. I haven't really been able to explain that, and I have asked this question on my Instagram on my stories, and people really haven't been able to explain this to me either. But there's some allegiance to Israel, and if you criticize Israel in any way, then you are deemed anti-Semitic, which is, I think, it's crazy. The only people, other people that I see this with, that is like their their race, or I don't even know if Jewish is a race, but their religion is like everything. And if you criticize anything that's tied to their religion, then you are criticizing them. You are anti them, which I don't think is the case. I think you have a right to criticize any government's actions because governments are just people. Governments are not holy. Governments are not God. So you should be able to criticize a government's actions, especially when this government may be responsible for the deaths of innocent civilians. We criticize our own government for that, right?
Right.
Obama was over there killing innocent civilians, killing innocent children. So we criticize him. So why can't we criticize what Israel is doing? But I don't
No, I agree. I didn't. I like I said, you. I hope I didn't make you lose your train of thought because
know. No, you're
I asked
good.
that question. But see when I do these interviews. Like I said, if anybody that's on my platform, man, I genuinely am interested in a lot of your takes. So, I got to get these
Hmm.
questions off, man. This not
No, it's
just
all
for the
good.
people, but these are personal because I admire what you do. So I apologize
Yeah.
if you did forget your train of thought. you know.
No, it's all good. It's all good. We were talking about Candace Owens. What was the question again? Ask it again for me.
Yeah, I was
Sorry.
talking about, what is your whole take on the whole, you pretty much answered it. What's your whole outlook on the way that the media is manipulating, is manipulating black women. They're having, it's almost as I look at it like this. There's a spectrum, and they of course they have
Hmm.
this for men as well, but there's a
Hmm.
spectrum, and this is the who they want to prop up as the representative
Right.
of conservatism within the black community,
Okay.
and that's Candace
Hmm.
Owens, and then you have the
Right.
Angel Reese's who represents the liberal black woman, the free spirit that you can't really say anything about,
Yeah.
and man, this is a conversation, man. I wanted to these type of conversations I feel people avoid because there is an Overton window that that people just don't want to go in front of. So I got
Hmm.
you on this platform because you put out a lot of dope content, and I'm gonna hold your feet to the fire to get. I want to hear
Yeah.
your takes on these things because I find that like I said, I find you a pretty interested. So I just want people just to honestly tell the truth. What do they think?
Hmm.
Because I'm gonna be honest, I'm at the point where I'm sick of people making excuses and making concessions for certain individuals. Because, like you said, you know, the community of Israel, it seems like I'm not going to. it's almost as if you can't say any, you can't criticize them. You can criticize Black Lives Matter. You can
Yeah.
criticize, in any type of community or organization that you see some type of fault, but it's almost as there are certain protected classes and groups that are just off limits. And if we are supposed to be purveyors of the First Amendment and believers of
Right.
free speech, nothing should be off limits. Nothing
No,
should be
not at
off
all.
limits.
Not at all.
So I'm just at the point where I feel that if you have something to say, man, you should be able to get it off your chest in a respectful manner. And we as men, we definitely should not be emotional as far as like having these conversations. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like for my platform, for instance, I'm a black man. If you've ever
right.
seen my comment section, some of the things I post, I get some of the most racist comments you probably ever seen on Instagram
Yeah, you do.
about black people. And guess
Right.
what? It doesn't bother me at all. Sometimes I read the comments and I laugh because these people don't know me. They don't know anything
Right.
about me. They don't know my family. They don't know nothing about my history or
Right.
anything like that. So if they're making comments, it's just comments. It's just words. I'm someone
Right.
who's a free speech absolutist. Like I don't care what you say, just say it. Get it off your chest. A lot of the
Right.
issues that we see in society today is probably because people don't have a voice. They feel like they can't say anything. So you've had
Right.
all these emotions and these feelings and things you want to say, but it's been bottled up. You can't say anything. You see stuff on TV every day about a certain group of people. You can't say anything negative because you'll get canceled. So I
Right.
just feel like you should be able to let people say what they want to say, and people should be adults and not so sensitive. That's why I don't think that children of any age should be on social media because it's a place that's not for the faint at heart. So you really have to be an adult to be able to handle what happens on social media and handle people's opinions. And if you put something out on social media, people are going to say positive things and sometimes they're going to say negative things, but you should be
Right.
able to take that and you should be able to, if you're putting yourself out there to be on social media, that's exactly what you should expect on social media.
Right.
And we got people like Angel Reese, and I made a video about this, and she's crying, talking about, I don't get to defend myself, and I get
Yeah, let's get
attacked,
let's
and
get into that, man.
and I get.
Let's talk about that. I wanna get into that, man. What is your whole, like I said, we see that they are propping these certain individuals up, man. I believe strategically to represent two different sides of the spectrum and trying to make sure that they're trying to prop these two individuals up, but they want to paint one to look much worse than the other. And
Hmm.
we all know who that one is because everybody on the right, let's be honest, we're painted in a negative light. So you see Angel
Hmm.
Reese. I want to like I said, I want to get right into this. Recently, she went on she had they lost to Iowa. Caitlin Clark
Hmm.
bust that ass, put 41 on her, and
Yeah.
she went to the podium and she complained about the pressure and the racism and things of that nature. And what would someone like you say who has who got some skin in the game as far as like being able to put out certain content and critique these things? What would you say to people who give reverence to that type of rhetoric that Angel Reese spews?
Well, she's a grown woman. She's 21
Right,
years old. Not that much of a grown woman, but she's still a grown
right,
woman who
right,
decides that she wants to be a bad girl, who decides that she wants to play a villain. A former NFL player, I think he articulated it very well when he talked about her painting herself as a villain and then wanting to play the victim afterwards. You can't really do that. And by the way, he's getting a ton of backlash for it. I think he's gonna crawl under a rock somewhere or issue a public
Emmanuel
apology
Acho.
because that's what they do. He's probably if he hasn't already done it, but he's going to probably issue a public apology for his opinion. But that's exactly what happened, and I think his take was spot on. She played the villain. I mean, how did she get famous? Because at the end of the game, when her team had defeated Iowa, she was walking around with the with this in Caitlin Clark's face, like making sure Caitlin Clark saw it talking about
Right.
some hoe. Like you could see it, you can read her lips. She was like
Yeah.
hoe, and then
Yeah.
she did like this, and then
Yeah.
she's like pointing to a ring finger, like I got a ring and you don't. Like that was taunting.
That's pathetic.
That was unsportsmanlike. I know a lot of people, even on our side, are saying I don't have a problem with that, but I thought it was unsportsmanlike. I thought it was not becoming of a young lady who is supposed to represent our community. Yeah, I didn't think it was good at all. But that's how she became famous, and it wasn't like she
Right.
came out and said, you know what, I shouldn't have done that. That was wrong of me. I was living in the moment. If she would have done that, everything would have been cool. But she couldn't
Right.
do that because we live in a society who praises people like that when they're black, right?
Right.
So if Kate and I strongly believe if Caitlin Clark had won that championship that year and did that to her, she would have been public enemy number one. And Caitlin
Facts.
Clark would have probably lost her endorsements, and I mean lost her. I don't know if she
Yeah.
has endorsements, but scholarships and different things like that. She would have been deemed a racist. So when you have a certain group of people, they get to do whatever they want, and I see it as a soft bigotry of low expectations. I always tell people this: if rap music was created, if gangster rap music was created by white people, we wouldn't have rap music today. So that's just what it is. It's a soft bigotry of low expectations. We're
Yeah.
expected to act like this, and we're praised when we act like this, and it's a shame because when you have people on the other side of the coin, like Candace Owens, who is a married woman with how many kids does she have now? 3 kids, four
Three.
kids, something like that. Three
Three.
kids. She's a married woman with 3 kids. She's a Christian woman. She stands up for her values. She speaks her mind, and this woman is demonized by
Right.
all of the media, even by social media. And I follow a lot of these liberal accounts, these black liberal accounts,
Ooh,
and
hold
you'll
up, time out. How do you do, man? I had to unfollow like at least three within the past couple of weeks, man. How do you do it?
yeah. Well, I guess some of my
But now they
content.
do make good content. I'll say that.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
they do allow you to put out to make good content critiquing the
yeah.
foolishness that
Right.
they advocate.
So you got to know what your enemy is doing at all times. This is a
Right.
war, right? We're in a culture war. So you got to know what your enemy is doing, and if you don't pay attention to what they're posting or what they're saying, then you're not going to know how to attack it, right? So I
Right.
was a liberal before, so I kind of know a lot of their talking points, and since I've
Right.
made some of them, I guess it doesn't bother me as much because I know what they're saying. I've heard it all before. I know what's going to come out of their mouth. I know if you're on a black liberal page that anything about a white person, they're gonna say the most racist things in the comments. Doesn't bother me because I
Facts.
know when I post something about a black person on my page, I might have white people there to come and say racist things. But I think a lot of the people that come in my page and say racist things are actually trolls, and they're these no name, no profile pic accounts that say whatever they want because there's no consequences or repercussions because nobody knows who they are. But anyway, I go on these pages and I see what they have to say, and a lot of times, but this is the crazy part. A lot of times they'll post a clip of Candace Owens, and the liberal page who posted it is trying to gaslight their audience to think that
Of
Candace
course.
Owens is saying something wrong, and Candace Owens
Yeah.
is hates black people and all this stuff. You'll see it in their headlines. But if you go in
Yeah.
the comments and read the comments, a lot of the black people are like, you know what? I may not like her, I may not like a lot of things that she says, but I agree with her on this. And a lot of people will say that I agree with her. I agree with her. I may not like her. I may not like this, but I agree with her. And it's like, it's like checkmate because you tried to get people to hate this woman, but they're actually
Right.
starting to like her. I have a Facebook profile that I've had since 2009, or actually I think it was like 2005. Like one of the when face remember Facebook when you used to have to use your college email address. Like I've had
Yeah. Yeah.
that.
Yeah. You
I've,
took, man. You going back? That's
yeah,
like the mid 2000s.
yeah,
Oh
yeah. So
five, oh
I've
six, something like
right.
that.
So
Yeah.
I've had the Facebook page ever since then, and the majority of the people who are my friends there are liberals. And I actually had somebody who was a friend of mine, staunch liberal, of course, and she posted on her Facebook page, believe it or not, I like Candace Owens. And she would have never said that 2 years ago. So people, I think, are starting to wake up. I think they're starting to see and when they listen to Candace Owens, that they agree
Right.
with a lot of things that she has to say. And the fact that a lot of these black podcasts have been bringing her on and letting her speak, like the Breakfast Club. Like, as if you watch the interview on the Breakfast Club, they didn't refute much of anything that she said.
They couldn't refute
Yeah,
anything that she said. It's
right.
almost like, it's on, you got to realize these platforms are, they do serve entertainment purposes.
Hmm.
But at the same time, they have an agenda. So, and it's not just that they have an agenda, but they do want to hear what this person has to say. But at the same time, like I said, they do have an agenda. So to your point, yes, she was saying a lot of things that they just could not refute. But you
Right.
can tell that they were uncomfortable with the things that she was saying. But because these guys are not intellectuals, or they don't have the knowledge to really to really oppose the things that she says, they pretty much got to concede to the fact that she's right. So that's what
Right.
and the problem that I have with a lot of these individuals, like you just said, the individuals say, "Oh, she's right. Oh, she's right," but I still don't like her. And I'm just trying to
Hmm.
figure out if you could say, if someone that you agree with, you consistently agree with, but you still don't like them, do you really dislike them? Just think about that.
No,
You're
no.
consistently saying that you don't, you agree with this, you agree with that, but I don't like them. And what I've come to observe in my years on this earth is, there is a there is a an unspoken rule in the black community, where you're just not supposed to uh, agree with conservatives. Like, you're not supposed to mimic the so-called quote unquote talking points of conservatives. If you do, you're a racist. You're Uncle Tom. You're a coon. You support racism and things of that nature. So,
Hmm.
I find it very disingenuous, like you said, when you take a look at the culture and you see all the things that they exalt, but then you have a problem with somebody that actually is trying to bring forth solutions to these things
Yeah.
in a way that is conducive to the collective. So, the floor is yours, brother. What you think on that?
Yeah, it goes back to like when we were in school. Anybody who spoke proper English, anybody who wanted to study and make good grades, those people were outcasts. Those people were
Right.
deemed as trying to be white, or trying to act
Mm-hmm.
white. So it's the same thing for Candace Owens. Like, it's basically, she's not cool. Like, we don't see her as cool, so we can agree with some things that she says, but we still don't
Right.
like her because she's not cool. She doesn't fit in this neat little box that all black people are supposed to fit in. And I think it goes
Right.
for people like you and I as
Excuse me.
well. We don't fit in this neat little box that black people are supposed to fit in. And I think that's you know a thing of like black people. They want to know what to expect from everyone, and it's like you can never be a wild card when you're dealing with black people, because if you come at black people, you're supposed to act like this, you're supposed to talk like this, you're supposed to think like this, you're supposed to
Yeah.
parrot all the black talking points, that white supremacy is the biggest issue for black people, that racism is running rampant in this country. You're supposed to parrot all those talking points in order for black people to be comfortable with you, right? And if you don't parrot those talking points, then it's like a shock to the system for all black people. It's like, what? Well, we can't
Mm.
trust you then, right? We're,
Right.
we're not comfortable around you because you don't think like we think. And people will say that, well, black people, we're not a monolith, but we're expected to be, right? We're
Right.
expected to speak the same. Like, even if you didn't talk like the rest of the black people that were in your circle, or in your school,
Right.
or in your community, if you
Right.
didn't talk like them, then you were outcast. Like, something was wrong with you. If you didn't use
Right.
the slang, you didn't use the ebonics. So I mean, you see a lot of black people today, and you could probably attest to this. They try to speak with ebonics and with slang, even though if they're in their house with their family, they don't talk
You
like
don't
that.
talk like that.
Like,
Right.
they don't talk like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's why we have this code switching thing, right? Like, and I think we do that with each other too. They would think, oh, code switching is when you talk black around your black people, but then you talk white around white people. I think it goes
Right.
for black people too. You might speak more properly when you're around your immediate circle because that's how you've been taught and that's how you speak. But
Right.
once you get around, ghetto black people, now you want to be ghetto too. But it's like, no, it's
Right.
like stop doing that. Be who you are and try to elevate the people around you. That's something that we definitely need to start doing in the black community. Like elevate the people around you. If you know better, then you do better and
Right.
you do better no matter who's around, no matter who it is. If you don't sell drugs, if you go to school, if you got a good job, cool. Share that with the people that are doing that so they can know
Right.
that, hey, I didn't have to do this to make it out. I didn't have to do this, to make money. You could do the same thing I'm doing, but instead, I went to a all boys school, all black, all boys school in New Orleans called Saint Augustine University. I mean Saint Augustine High School, and even though this school was a private Catholic school, the people who went there had to pay like 3,000, 5,000 back then for tuition. There were a lot of affluential black people who went there. There were
Right.
kids of judges and lawyers and different things like that. But those same kids that went to that school that were the offspring of judges and lawyers had to be gangster when they were in school. It was like,
Too
what's the
much.
purpose? What's the purpose of that? Like, can we start to elevate each other and start to make each other better rather than
It's too much.
like rather than catering? We're catering to the lowest common denominator. That's what
Common
we do in the black
denominator.
community. Yep.
No, no, it's too much. It's almost to the point like it's unfortunate, but and it's another reason why I love what you're doing. Why I want to continue to support platforms like yours, and I'm just contributing, like to this. I am not incentivized. I don't do this to make money. I can care less. I do very well in my professional life. So I don't do this to, I'm not trying to be the next Dr. Martin Luther King. I'm not trying to be the next Brandon Tatum. I'm not trying to be the next big YouTuber. This is my contribution to a to a group of people or a community that represent my values, my Christian biblical worldview. This is all this is. So a lot of times when you look as a conservative man, when you look around, we're not represented. There's no spaces for us. Like where do we like really where are we represented, especially as in the mainstream? Like you don't see us.
Hmm.
So we need communities like what we have in the conservative movement platforms like yours because our voices are really not being heard. We're in the minority, and like you said, it's almost like you have to capitulate to the left and to a lot of the things that black people exalt to the point that you
Hmm.
compromise your values, you compromise who you are. And I just feel like if we supposed to be this group of people that have a wide a range of ideas and thoughts, why are we trying to move everybody in one direction and think the same? Why, when you have conservative values and beliefs, why are you ostracized? You're able
Hmm.
to worship the ancestors and be an atheist and do all this other stuff. But if you say Donald Trump is not a racist, if you believe in patriotism, these things they want to cancel you. So I feel like we have to continue to you don't have to listen. You're not obligated to do anything other than take care of your family and worship your creator, whatever, however you. But I'm saying there is consequences when we don't have platforms like yours, like mine, and we
Hmm.
don't have voices that are able to just cut through the BS because they right
Right.
now the left is crushing us. Because they control
Hmm.
the culture, they control the
Right.
language, they control the way that we perceive and we receive information. So I just got to continue to pay homage to guys like yourself, man, because you motivate me, and I'm pretty sure you motivate other individuals in this space, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and sometimes it gets difficult. Sometimes it's very time consuming. There's sacrifices that are made when it comes to family, when it comes to my work life. but I believe in what I'm doing, and I believe in trying to save our country. I believe that we are headed in a very, very, very bad direction. And if we don't right the ship, that then things are going to get so much worse for us, and especially the black community. When things like this happen, it affects us the most because we're in the worst situations. So of course it's going to affect us the most. So I have to speak out and I have to speak up. And but it makes me feel good when I see that some of the things that I've been saying for years are actually starting to be heard by the black community, and it just depends on the timing. Like for instance,
Right.
the black community was parroting the Democrats when they said that Trump was throwing kids in cages, that Trump was insensitive when it came to migrants, or let me quote that,
Right.
migrants wanting to come into this country and find a better life. And while the left was saying that we should let everybody in who wants to come into this country, I heard some black people that were parroting the same thing. But now we got the same black people who are seeing what's happening in cities across the country and how they're being flooded with
Right.
these
Right.
migrants who are illegal
Mm-hmm.
immigrants and taking resources from black people and moving
Nah, you're
into
right.
black spaces. And now they're like, hold on, we got to deport these people. So like I was saying this in
Yeah.
2020, and y'all were like, oh no, Donald Trump's a xenophobe. Like, okay, well, y'all sound a lot like xenophobes today.
Yeah. Nah, it's interesting to see how things are coming full circle because a lot of times when something is new, when something is fresh, people's initial reaction is like to reject it, and then you
Mhm.
see these things metastasize, and you have no choice but to respond to it. It's and like you were just you're speaking on the illegal immigration situation. You know, how do you? This is the thing. The question I pose to you. I want to know this, man. How do you speak? How do you communicate to a group of people that feel like they have been unjustly victimized? That feel that embracing this victim mentality is part of their cultural identity. How do you convince these people to choose something that is going to be in their best interest? Like, how do you do that? Because right now we're at a point where if you don't embrace the perpetual victim mentality, you're not black. Like, you have to believe this stuff. It's
Mhm.
so deeply entrenched in our culture that it's literally an uphill battle. So when I
Right.
see individuals like yourself and others, man, continuing to put out the content, do you ever look at it like, man, like what am I? Is things are there ever going to be a significant change? Is things ever going to come around full circle? Because it's pretty pretty bleak right now.
Well, the idea of playing the victim, yeah, it does run deep in the black community. Um, but it's something that's pretty recent. I don't feel like my dad, my mom were talking about this stuff when I was a kid. I never heard them talk about how they were victims when they actually used to live in the Jim Crow South. But I
Right.
never heard them talking about how horrible it was back then, or how evil white people were. My dad is a raging liberal. He hates Donald Trump.
Woo.
But yeah, so it's hard.
Ah, man.
But you know what? When I was a kid, he never talked about like, how bad it was living in the Jim Crow South in New Orleans. He never said anything about that. I never heard anything about that. He says more now today about, being a victim and how bad things were for black people. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just him parroting the talking points from CNN and MSNBC, which he frequently watches. So if people realize like what really happened to them, it's not that you've been victimized. It's been that you've been manipulated to feel like a victim. And then you have
Right.
to understand where this is coming from. This is not coming from your own experiences. This is
Right.
coming from people who, let's be honest, they don't like you. As much as black people say, to me, "Oh, you're a Trump supporter. You know Trump don't like you." Well, why do you think Democrats like you? Democrats were
Exactly.
the party of slavery. Democrats were the party that rejected civil rights and all this
The
stuff
Ku
that
Klux
would have
Klan.
helped. Right, Ku Klux Klan. So why do you think Democrats like you? And that's what people need to realize. And I hope people will wake up, and maybe they are a little bit today, that they're just being manipulated. Like all this
Right.
racism talk is only to manipulate you. It's only to get you emotionally triggered so that they can control you. If and I posted this. I can't remember where, but it was a cool idea. I hope I can remember where I put it. But it's just the thought that when you have if okay, let me put it like this. If I was a salesman and I was trying to sell to a group of people all at once, it would be so much easier for me to sell to that group of people if I knew what was important to all of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if the same thing was important to all of them, it would be so easy for me to sell to them. And I think that's what the Democrats do to the black community. It's like they put all the black people in this box. We're going to
Right.
make racism the most important thing to you. So now
Right.
we know exactly how to sell to you. Now we know
Right.
exactly how to manipulate you to do exactly what we want you to do. And then that's exactly what's happening to the black community. And the Democrats have been doing this for a very, very long time. And I'm hoping that black people will wake up from this and understand that this is total manipulation, because we weren't talking about this a while ago.
Right.
We weren't talking about
Mm-hmm.
this, in the 80s when I was growing up. We weren't talking about like
No, we wasn't.
racism and white supremacy all the time. We weren't even talking about it in the 90s. Like we were enjoying
Right.
life. Everything was good. If you
Exactly.
look at a
Yeah.
if you look at a graph, you can and it showed like what was it? Racial, like the racial divide in the country.
Right.
Like when it started to get bad. Wasn't bad in the 80s, wasn't bad in the 90s. It didn't start to get bad until Obama's last term as
Mm-hmm.
president. And that's
But that,
that's
but look,
when
let
when
me, but look, not to cut
Mhm.
you off, man. But let me say this, man. You right, because they literally, the media used the media spun all of that. They looked
Mhm.
at how they can be, what is the best way to push an agenda. And like you said,
Mhm.
man, I hope people heard what you just said in regard, because you made a great analogy as far as being a salesman and acquiescing or placating to the consumer. In this case, we're talking about black people, because they know that these are the things that they care about, and they care about these things because they have been pushing this type of agenda for years.
Mhm.
This is black people being primed for this
Yeah.
type of rhetoric for years and decades. So
Mhm.
now, when you take a look at most black media platforms, name me one that do not mimic and parrot the talking points of the white liberal. Like all of
Right.
them, they say the same things. So most black people, they constantly consume it when they listen to morning radio from Tom Joyner to Steve Harvey. You hear it in the rap music from Public Enemy to NWA, F the
Mhm.
Police. Like all this was programming. And
Mhm.
so when you hear this type of rhetoric over and over and over again, you know these politicians, they know how to appear to appear as if they're delivering something of some type of significance. But the problem that I see with black people is they haven't, because of our lack of self-awareness. We don't hold ourselves self accountable, and we don't seem to want to have agency over ourselves, because it's much easier to depend on the government. It's much easier to depend on the words of these politicians. And that's why
Right.
I love what you said earlier, when how you talked about, you like to talk more about culture, because like you said, culture is downhill from politics. And if
Hmm.
you change downstream from politics, but if you change the culture, that is going to be a reflection in the way that you vote, and you will
Right.
see things change because of that. But if you don't think that you're doing anything wrong, if you view yourself as a perpetual victim, why would you change? What's the incentive to change? Because it's
Not your
now you've
fault.
adopted this as an identity, and if
Hmm.
you this identity has created industries. Like people, let's be clear. This whole race hustle industry, this is a multi-million-dollar industry. What Benjamin
Right.
Crump does, what Reverend Al Sharpton does, these guys make millions off of this type of rhetoric. The Angela
Hmm.
Rye's, the Roland Martins, like if racism dies, what happens to these individuals? And I'll pass the
Yeah, that
baton to
you
you,
brought
but
up.
I want to, what's your thoughts on what I just said?
Yeah, if racism dies, they go out of business. They lose a lot of money, so they have to keep this up, and it's big business. So why would they stop talking about racism? Why would they stop making everything about race? Because it's how they get their money. It's how they pay their bills. How they take care of their families. So they want to keep it alive. People will post memes about this all the time. How the left racism was on life support, and the left brought it back. Like that's exactly what they're doing because they know it's big business. I mean, how many millions of dollars did Black Lives Matter rake in over racism? Like that's what
Right,
it was. Like they couldn't pin any of these police shootings of unarmed black men on racism, but they were able to accumulate all this money and donations based off the idea that these people were killed because of racist white cops, right? So you're perpetrating this by manipulating the minds of a lot of people, and it's not just black people that they're manipulating. They're manipulating
right.
white liberals as well. And white liberals, they have a heart for black people. They feel for black people. They have this white savior complex. So when they see black people, they see black people suffering in any way, they gotta jump in and like, oh no, the poor innocent black people, we have to save them. Like that's how they think. So it's not just the
Yeah.
black people that they're manipulating. They're manipulating the entire country. But fortunately, there are people like us who see past all the BS and know exactly what's going on and how to ignore it and how to, and hopefully we're able to spread the message to other people who are going to wake up too.
No, that's a fact, man. I wanna talk about, I see you got the masculinist. Am I pronouncing that right? Masculinist.
Yes. Yes.
T-shirt, hat. I take it this is part of your, this is your brand, right? Correct.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. So I wanna talk about that. We nowadays you have the manosphere and you have red pill and all
Yeah.
this other, different type of rhetoric, talking points, or what have you. What
Hmm.
is your whole take on the manosphere, the red pill community? How do you view that?
I think the red pill community is half good, half bad. They say some good things that a lot of men need to hear, but they also say some things that do not align with Christian values or conservative values. Is basically uh, trying to get men to sleep with as many women as possible, but that's not how we should be operating. But
Right,
when it comes to defending the attacks on men, which I feel like is very prevalent in society today. I think men are under attack, especially, well, not especially. It's straight men who are under attack because the gay men, they're not under attack. They're praised and put on a pedestal. But straight men
yeah,
are definitely under attack. Straight men of all races are under attack, not just straight white men, it's straight black men, it's straight Asian men, straight
right,
Hispanic men. We're all under attack. Because the feminists, they want, these modern feminists, they want a world that's run strictly by women, and they want men under their control. Which, I mean, we all know society does not function without strong men, and if you eliminate the man, then society will crumble like very very quickly. But I was looking at the View It's hard to listen to those cackling hens, but I did. And they were talking about, there was a poll done, and they asked women, do you need men? And they said all the women said no. Then they asked men the same question, do you need women? And all the men said yes. So there's a
Right.
clear attack on men by a lot of feminists, and there's
Yeah.
an attack on men by white liberals as well. You see a lot of white liberals who hate themselves and want to see females in charge, which I don't want that. That's not the way God designed our society to run. It's not the way God designed the family to run. So, in my platform, as much as possible, I try to spread that message. Like, we need men in charge. That's the only way that we're going to get society back to the way that it should be. I think a lot of the issues that we're seeing in society today is because of a lack of strong men. Is because of men like giving over the reins to crazy feminist women, and we need to take the reins back. And I hope that women will allow men without force to take the reins back and take control of the country and get things back to the way they need to be in the order of the way God intended it to be.
Nah, I totally agree. Have really no pushback on that. I would like, I would, kind of like to add, that, when you look at the dynamic between men and women, there is a clear difference. And, it's not about men opposing their will on women. And I think that is the narrative that is constantly being pushed, that men are so dangerous. We are responsible
Hmm.
for all the wars, and you hear a lot of these feminists mention things like that, but they also
Hmm.
they fail to realize that all of the rights that they're able to exercise come because of men. There was never
Right.
a war between men and women
Right.
defeated the men, and then they got the like and I know a lot of women may think this is harsh as what I'm saying, but the reason why women have the rights that they have is because men allowed them to. We've
Yeah.
allowed men realize, like, we cannot oppress our women any longer. And even when you look at what most people call oppressing women, it was for the need of safety. That, before,
Yeah.
during the time of the Industrial Revolution, and you had, people having to go into factories, and the way that we used to production, how things were produced, and these were very serious jobs that you
Yeah.
just did not want to put in somebody that is bringing forth life. You do not want to put this person in this position.
Right.
So, when I look at the red pill movement, and I look at the manosphere, I get the gist of what they're trying to convey, but it's getting to a point where now I'm kind of looking at it like these guys are a net negative. Like, they're pretty much synonymous with the feminists. So
Yeah.
what would you say to young men who are trying to find their way in this world, and they're trying to they want to they come at a point where there's a fork in the road. Should they be more conservative? What are the benefits of that? What is it? What should they be more liberal to fit in? What would be your advice to that young man or young woman that's coming up?
Well, before I get into that, I just want to say, I think like, I don't know if you ever listened to Kevin Samuels when he was
Of
alive.
course,
I
of
think he
course.
had a I think he had a great perspective on the way that things should be between men and women. Like, he had a mature perspective, and I think a lot of these red pill podcasts kind of took what he was doing and made it into something that
Twisted
was
it.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, that was completely different. Like, Kevin Samuels was about women finding husbands and men finding
Right.
wives and building families and different things like that. So that's what he was about. But now it's like totally different. I wish Kevin Samuels hadn't passed away, because I think he would have made a really, really big impact on the black community. But my message to let me talk to the black men first. I think conservative values is the way to go. If you want to start a family, if you want to have the best, put your family in the best position possible, then conservative values is the way to go. We got to start stepping up to the plate. We got to start commanding our households and being the kings of our castle, and making sure that we're putting our families in a position for success, and being the leaders that we're supposed to be, that God intended us to be. That is imperative. And if we start doing that, and I know it starts with one household, then we
Right.
branch out to a community or a neighborhood, then a community, then a city, then a state. And if we can just start with that one household, and I always refer back to the Michael Jackson song, Man in the Mirror, right? Because I
Right.
think a lot of us men need to look in the mirror and make a change. Like, understand what we need to do to be the best versions of ourselves that we can possibly be for our family, for our community, and for society as a whole. And if we can do that, then things are going to get better no matter what. Like, that's where it starts. And for the women, I get very harsh on women. So sometimes people get mad at me for saying the things that I say about women, but I got to keep it real. There's always this onus put on the men. The men are responsible for what's going on in these neighborhoods. It's always the men. The men are leaving the household, the men are leaving the women. And I don't think every case is that. I think a lot of cases women are deciding to have babies without men because they feel like they don't need men. And they feel like they don't need men because they have the government. We had this
Right.
this big push by Democrats back in the day to eliminate the man from the household and make the woman dependent on the government, because a woman that's dependent on the government can be easily controlled by the government. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what's happening in a lot of society. So I can't blame that on men. I have to blame that on the people who made the decision to say, you know what, I don't need a man anymore because I can get this government assistance. If I have a man, then I won't be able to get the free handouts that I would have gotten if I did have one. So, and I speak to the women, like, you have to choose to want to raise children in a family structure, in a stable family structure. And I'm not talking about you and your boyfriend that you've been with for a
Right.
year or two having a
Right.
baby. I'm talking about the man that chose to marry you, have
Right.
you and him having a baby, because this my
No, you can't
boyfriend
say
and I
that.
having a baby. Yeah, my boyfriend and I are having a baby, therefore we have a family.
A
No, you
family,
don't
right?
have a family. If y'all got two different last names, it's not a family. So let's
Right.
get back to getting married, because I think that is the only way to go, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Get back to getting married. How can you possibly think that this man that has not committed to you is going to commit to raise your child? He needs to
I
commit
tell
to
I
you
tell guys
first.
that all the time. I had a conversation with a coworker, a Jewish guy and he was telling me, he don't see the benefit of marriage, and I just told him, he's a younger guy, not that much younger,
Yeah.
but I explained to him, there's so many benefits in being married, but the way that most men think, they think of it from a very cynical perspective. They
Hmm.
consume a lot of this red pill content that shapes their views and their perception of what
Yeah.
marriage is supposed to look like, and it's almost that pretty much mirrors how a lot of women think. They think that marriage is supposed to be happy all the time, and everybody you're supposed to just walk around with smiles on your face 24/7. But to
Right.
to bring my point home, a lot of when you look at marriage is supposed to be symbolic of a covenant.
Hmm.
This is a covenant, a contract that you have established not only with God but with this woman, with these
Right.
children. So, when you decide, if you can't show this woman that you're going to make this covenant with her, how could she fully trust you? How could you fully
Hmm.
trust each other? So, when you say
Yep.
how you put a lot of onus on the women, I would push back on that a little bit and say I would kind of put more onus on the men, because I believe that men, we dictate how our relationships run. We dictate our households. We create a certain environment. Our women don't create the environment. They can kind of, shape that environment by the different things that they allow to that they partake in, and the different information that they consume, and how how they care for our children, and make a house a home and things of that nature. But we set
Mm-hmm.
the table. We lay the foundation. And I feel like a lot of men today, they don't want that responsibility. It's too much. They look at a lot of times the backlash that they see from a lot of these liberal women, and they don't want the responsibility. So, I would say, you know, when you look at marriage, that is something that, when you look at marriage and you look at children that are being born in two parent households,
Mm-hmm.
every statistical measurement or every metric that you can use show that children are much more stable. They're much more productive when they come from a household with a mother and father. But like, again, any metric would show that. So why would you want to bring a child into the earth at a disadvantage?
Mm-hmm.
So when you got to look at it when you have children. You now are, your priority is not just yourself. But today, it's, if you look at it like this, I'm not trying to be too serious. I want people to still, pay attention to what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
We are in an age where we have social media. People my age are still, playing video games. Our age, like it's almost like people our age, because of social media, they're living their second childhood. So their parents, they have children, but they still want to engage in the things that they were engaging in when they were, 20 years ago. What they was doing, they still think it's 1998. So,
Mm-hmm.
how do we, as men, how do we set a precedence as far as letting our women know, like, this structure that I'm trying to create, it's not to control you, but it is for to keep everybody. It's to make sure that there is a checks and balances within this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I wasn't too long winded, but go
No, no,
ahead,
you're
brother.
good. But I do want to respond to something you said. Um,
Go ahead.
kind of a rebuttal. So when you
Go ahead.
said that, and this is why I kind of put, I don't put all the onus on the women, but I do put some onus on the women. When you
Right.
said that the younger guy, he said he didn't see any benefit to getting married.
Right.
Now, why do you think he didn't see any benefit to getting married? And I'll
I
tell
think
you
he's
why I
looking at
think.
the laws. I think he's looking at that. And the way he conveyed it to me, it was, pretty much the laws of the United
Okay,
States. The court, the laws, court and things of that
right,
nature.
but yeah, I mean that I get that. But for me, I feel like if he didn't get sex from women, if he didn't get support from any women, if he didn't
Right.
get companionship from any women, then I think the risk of the laws would kind of go out the window, because I feel like a lot of men today are saying they don't see the benefits of marriage because they're
Right.
getting all the benefits of marriage without being married. So
That's
why
true.
so why should you have to get married if you're getting all the benefits of being married? And that's why
Yeah.
I gotta go back to the women, because the women are the ones that are giving away the benefits without the marriage. So
Got a
if
point.
the women
Got a point.
withheld those benefits until marriage, then the men
Right.
would be forced to say, you know what? If I want sex, if I want the companionship, if I want somebody that's going to cook and clean for me, I got to marry this person. Well, guess what? I got to marry this person. And then more women will be getting married. But if women are having this sexual liberation that we're experiencing today, where they feel like, well, I should be able to sleep with any man I want to, and you shouldn't
Right.
be able to judge me about my body count, then men are getting exactly what they want out of women
Yeah.
without the sacrifice, or without having to put a ring on their finger. So that's why I got to go back to them. Be like, look, and I say this all the time. Like, we have a society that rewards bad behavior, and I think women
Right.
and men reward bad behavior. If women all of a sudden decided, you know what, I am all women decided I'm not going to sleep with thugs anymore.
Right.
Thugs are not getting any kitty cat from me anymore.
Hold on,
Like
hold on.
no
Stop. Don't
man.
don't don't forget that
Uh-huh.
thought. I want to talk to
Yeah.
the chat for a second. Like, hey, everyone,
Okay.
who do you guys think present a better argument, me or right wing Angel? Put a one in the chat if you believe me. Put a two in the chat if you say right wing Angel. Continue.
Okay.
I would be honest, man. You're shaping my. You're kind of shaping my. I'm kind of coming on your side a little bit, man. But go ahead,
Okay.
brother.
Okay. So if women decided, look, we're not gonna sleep with thugs anymore, I guarantee you there will be no thugs because the P word is power. And women don't realize how much power they have because it is in us to chase kitty cat, right? That's
Right,
it's in us. Like we are God made, but we are just like
right.
animals. Like
That's what. That's the way
we
we're
chase kitty
engineered.
cat. Yes, we're
Yeah.
wired to procreate. We're wired to be fruitful and multiply. So
Right.
that's what we're looking for. So if you
Yeah.
withhold that and say, I need this type of man, only this type of man is going to get kitty cat from me, then that's the only men that you're going to get. And if you have thugs out there that realize, you know what, I can't get any kitty cat unless I'm going to school or unless I got a good
Right.
job, unless I'm an upstanding citizen, then they're going to change. They're not going to be thugs anymore. When rappers started getting the face tattoos, like Lil Wayne, I remember he was like one of the first rappers I saw that was getting face tattoos.
Right.
People knew, men knew Lil Wayne was getting nookie. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
Lil Wayne was getting all these women were falling out
Yeah.
over Lil Wayne. So all the men said, oh, Lil Wayne's getting nookie for looking like that. Now I gotta go look like that. Oh, he got
Right.
dreadlocks and he getting nookie. Now I gotta get dreadlocks, you know?
Skinny jeans.
Right. Like everything that men noticed other men doing that were
Yeah.
getting punani, that's what they
Right.
went and did. Because it controls us. Like, let's be honest. It definitely controls us. So that's why I have to say to the women, like, you gotta change the men that you're letting inside you. Like that's is going to change society. If we decide, like if women decide we gotta change the type of men that we're letting inside of us, letting deal with you, then men are gonna change. And then when the men change, society is gonna change. It's gonna be a much better place.
Man, you present a very compelling argument. Um, I'm going to concede to you on this one. I have to gather my thoughts, and I'm gonna come back if we do a part two. I may have
Yeah.
something to add to this, but right now I will concede to you on that one because that was pretty good, brother.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
definitely thought about this. You definitely thoroughly thought
yeah,
about this.
yeah. I think about it a lot because the conservative talking point is it's always men are leaving their families. The reason why we have this fatherless situation in the black community is because men are leaving their families. And I know for a fact, because I grew up black, this is not men leaving their families. This is a lot of hookups, and the child happens to come out because there was a hookup.
Right.
And then these people never got along to begin with. If they stayed together, it would probably be
Yeah.
worse for the child.
It'd probably be
So
worse.
this
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
this is not a situation where it's men leaving the families. This is a
Yeah.
situation where two people are sleeping together that shouldn't be sleeping together. And women control access to sex. So it's
Right.
the
And
women who
men
decide
control access
access
to
to marriage.
marriage.
Yes,
Right.
yes. So, but like I said, if men are getting what they want without being married, without having to commit to marriage, then why would they get married? Like there's no reason for them to get married. So women have to
I want
like
to read this chat.
control what they
Um,
control.
okay. My wife says the same thing can be applied to men. Women dress a certain way and look a certain way because the men give those women the most attention. She also said it's a never ending cycle on who to blame.
So okay, let me address that. So they say that women dress this way because men give them attention. We have to
Right.
understand what type of attention that is. And I hope that women are smart enough to differentiate I want to have sex with you attention from I want to marry you attention.
Marry you, exactly. Right.
Right. So if women are wearing skimpy outfits with their titties out and their booty out and they're getting
Right.
attention from men, I hope they would understand that those men that they're getting attention from only want to sleep with them. So those are not the same men that are going to marry them. So if women
Facts.
are saying that I'm going to wear this because I get attention and it's for
Hmm.
sex, then you have to understand when men come at you for sex, like that's what you presented. That's what you
Right.
advertised. You didn't
No, no, no.
advertise yourself as marriage material.
I wholeheartedly agree. Now that I mean, you've presented some very compelling compelling arguments, brother. I gotta give it to you. I would still say, with men being the, with men being the with women being the weaker vessel. I still believe that men play a pivotal role as far as like establishing a structure for women to be able to, for them to be able to show, for women to be able to exercise their rights and their duties as a woman. And
Mhm.
a lot of times, when you see a lot of these guys out here, I mean, just take a look around, Oliver. I mean, you got the Dr. Umars, you got the Brother Polites, you have the Rashad Jamals. I mean, you have a lot of wayward men, and they
Mhm.
co-sign a lot of this nonsense. So, if men would say, okay, ladies, we don't want you dressing provocatively. We don't want
I
you.
don't know.
We don't want you. Presenting yourself with all this sexual energy. You're gonna have to straighten up. Straighten up. You want me? You say you want marriage? Okay, fine. I'll give you that. But you're going to have to. You're going to have to. A lot of women may not like this, but it's the way I speak. You're going to have to get on my program. You're going to have to. Reel a lot of that stuff back. So what would what's your retort to that?
Have you ever seen online where a man comes out and says, "Okay, women, I don't like that you're dressing like this. Okay,
Ooh, you got
women,
me. Checkmate.
I don't. Yeah, I don't like.
All
For
right.
instance,
Okay. Okay. Continue. Continue. You
you
got me. Yeah. If
you
this was. If
you
this
know
was. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
you know what happens every time a
Yeah.
man
Every
says
time.
we
Every
don't like
time.
what women do. They always
Oh.
attack us. Always attack us. And there's a thing called slut shaming, right?
Yeah.
That comes from men. That comes from men telling women that they shouldn't sleep around
Having
or
standards.
criticizing
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
for sleeping around,
Right.
telling that they should have standards. It's called slut shaming. So if I get a lot of backlash, and I don't really do this too much anymore. But whenever
Right.
I'll go on my Facebook page or around any circles, and I would tell black women, you look much better with your natural hair. I don't like that y'all are so obsessed with
Oh,
weave
they'll
and
drag
wearing
you.
this
That's
exactly
that's a.
wearing
Yeah.
wearing this hair that is not your own texture. And I would just tell them how much I love the black hair texture. They would drag me. They would call me gay for doing that.
Yeah.
So
Why you
black
worried about
men,
my hair? You ain't. You
exactly,
ain't. You ain't paying for it.
exactly. So men, we cannot tell women anything about how they dress, how they act. It doesn't fly. They will never accept
Yeah.
it. But if women tell men, they will accept it because they can deny access to coochie. And if they deny access to coochie, men will be forced to listen, right? So that's just my argument on it. We really don't have men don't have a voice when it comes to women, and a lot of women, especially in our community, I don't think they're doing things for us anymore. They're doing things for themselves. Can do you
Right.
really? What
I
man
will agree. I will
looks at
100% agree with that.
what
I mean, just
man
look at the whole
looks
Angel. Look at the whole Angel Reese situation.
right,
Like, I mean, literally, no one is able to criticize this woman. Like, this
right?
woman literally came out of her mouth and said that she's being sexualized.
Yep.
But when you look at the provocative pictures, the TikTok videos, Instagram, and when you see her, when you see people talk about her, and they talk about how she's being attacked, No one pushes back on this type of rhetoric because it's almost accepted that the black woman, women in general, that they can say whatever they want, they can do whatever
Mhm.
they want, and it's not to even be questioned,
Right.
especially by no men.
Right. Now think about this. Look at this BBL culture, right? We have black women going to places like Mexico and
Right.
risking their lives just to get BBLs. What man do you know is attracted to a BBL? What man you
I
know
don't know any.
likes a
It's
BBL
disgusting.
says I prefer my woman to have a BBL? None. They're not doing that for us. They're doing that to compete with each other. That's how they do
Yeah.
things. What
Yeah.
man you know is looking at these long bird feather eyelashes on women's
None.
eyelids and going, "Oh my God, that's so sexy."
I
No,
need to
they're
have
not
her.
doing this for us. Right,
I want a woman with caterpillar eyelashes.
right. They're not doing
Yeah.
this for us. They're doing this to compete with each other. Even the makeup. I remember back in the day, and you probably remember this too. Back in the
Of course.
90s, black women didn't wear makeup.
When I
They
was in
didn't
high
wear makeup.
school, there was two girls in my entire high school, man, that wore makeup. Just two.
Yeah,
Now these young girls are starting to wear makeup in elementary school
right,
because these the mothers, the modern women of today, this is the social norm.
right.
So nah, you're
But
making
is
some
it
good points. And
But that's what I'm
go
saying.
ahead.
Is it something that we wanted? Is it something that we demanded of our women? Did we say, you know what, y'all look so much better with makeup on? Did we tell them, you know what, y'all look so much better with weave in your head? We didn't say that. They
You
decided to
know what
do
it
these things
is?
on our own, and we accepted it because we
Right.
loved them so much.
Right. Yeah, and no, I will agree. I agree. You know, a lot of times, women when they hear what you just said, they would try to say that we feed into that because we continue to date these women and we get have relations. But
Continue to sleep
it's
with these
almost
women.
we sleep
Sleep with
and
these women
exactly we sleep with these women, but we're
because
not
they're
sleeping.
easy. Because they're
Exactly, and
easy.
that's what I try to explain to these. Like, it's not that these women are not beautiful. We don't like the makeup. We don't like the wig. We don't like the lashes. We can still but we as men and women would never understand this. Our nature is to still to be with a woman, and we can still see beyond that. Now we wish you did not wear that, but most men are going to bypass that. They're going to be like, I don't like that, but this woman is easy, So it's almost like and it's less. It's almost becoming less women, especially within the black community, who don't embrace those type of things. So it's almost like
Right.
we're like it seemed like all the women that most men consider beautiful, naturally beautiful. I'm not even talking about with all the cosmetics. They wear these things. So we as men, we like beautiful women. It just so happened that a lot of these women, they wear this type of stuff. So if you're not
Right.
dealing with these women, you're going to be dealing with a woman. And I know women don't want to hear this, but a lot of times you'll be dealing with. There's a good chance you might be dealing with a woman that you're really not attracted to. I'm sorry, because most women they wear this stuff. Finding
Yeah.
a woman who do not embrace this type, it's rare. Is it possible? Of course, it's possible. But most
Yeah.
women they embrace this type of culture. That's just a fact. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah, and I think women they gaslight each other too. They gaslight each other to believe that this is what men want. And I think it's not true. It's not reality. If you took a poll and asked men if they like BBLs, if they like the eyelashes, if they like the makeup, probably 90 something percent of the men will say no. But there's so many women who, and especially single women, they talk to each other. They go on these podcasts and they talk to each other, and they have no idea what men want, but they think they do. So they
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 think they
tell
do.
each other, well, this is what men want. We're doing this because this is what men want. You have never heard a man one day in your life tell me that's what he want,
Never.
tell you that's what he wanted, but you want them to want that because you're not. It's not about the men. You're competing with other women who you think are doing that because they're trying to attract men, but they're not. Like none of them are trying to attract men. They're more likely trying to just play who can have the biggest ass or who has the biggest
Right.
eyelashes with each other.
Yeah.
Like it's not about men. And I hoped or wish that one day black women will wake up and start to appreciate their men more and start to actually listen to us and what we actually want. And I think that will also increase the marriage rate because you'll have women who are setting themselves up to be wives and not to be sluts and not to be one night stands, which I think a lot of them are. And when you see, if I was at the club, I was young once and I was a little bit of a gigolo in my younger days. But if I saw a woman at the club and I was like striking out, right? Like the
Right.
night is almost over. I'm almost ready to go home. I'm striking out. I'm looking for the woman who looked like she got the lowest self-esteem because that's going to be the one that's easiest. And the one that with the lowest self-esteem is the one that got on a ton of makeup, the one that
Yep.
got enhancements and all this
Facts.
stuff, and the one that's wearing skimpy outfit. That's my target
Yeah.
because I know I can get
Yeah.
her easily,
Yeah.
right? I'm not
Yeah.
looking for the woman who's beautiful in the face, not wearing too much makeup,
Yeah.
not revealing too much skin.
Right.
I'm not targeting her. That woman has self-esteem. That woman has
Right.
confidence. It's going to take a
Right.
lot to get her, and that's not the woman that I'm trying to sleep with because I know she's not going
Yeah.
to be easy to sleep with.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going for
Yeah.
the one that looks like she's going to be easy to sleep with. So that's what women have to realize. Like there's a difference
Yeah.
between the male gaze of a man who's trying to sleep with somebody, especially on social media. Just because you got a woman who's got a BBL and a bunch of men like the posts, like her in a bikini or whatever, that doesn't mean that she's a desirable woman in terms
Right.
of marriage material.
Right. No, that's
She's
a fact.
somebody that these men are getting off to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing, and when I hear you speak, I agree with most of what you're saying. I pretty much agree with 98.999. It's just I just don't want to present. I just don't want to present the idea that men don't have any power. And I think sometimes men can look at what you're saying and they look at even the red pill,
Hmm.
point of view from a nihilistic perspective. And I still feel that men do have the power when and I don't even really like to you, but we control the way that our relationships are ran. So if you are a believer and you believe in Christian values and things of that nature, you're going to follow the word of God based on the divine order. And we all know that the divine order is God, man, woman. So, by default, you're going to realize that, the man that you have a desire for, he's going to be a man that's trying to mirror, the image of Christ. So, with that being said, a lot of times, I personally see it for myself, and I'm pretty sure you do, that a lot of men are taking their foot off the pedal, and they're taking it, and they're just literally just giving up. They feel as if they have no power. They cannot be able to implement any type of form of structure in a relationship. And
Hmm.
the women have all the power. So like I said,
Yeah,
for
no.
the most part, I do agree with what you're saying, but I still feel that that men, our voices are strong when we decide to utilize them and do it, you know, mirroring the word of God.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I said earlier, that men have to take back control of everything. Like we have to take back and control and be put in our rightful leadership positions.
Right.
That I'm a strong proponent of that, even in my own household. But we have to get there first, and getting there is what I'm talking about. Like you know, once men are put in that position in a relationship or
Right.
choose the woman that they're going to be with, then of course they should know what to do and they should be in their rightful leadership position in the way God
Right.
intended it. But we got to get there first, and I think that's the issue. We're having a hard time getting there because of so many roadblocks that I believe we have been put in front of us, and that women have been taking our voices away, so we're not able to help women get to the position and then ultimately help ourselves get to the position where we are starting these relationships where men are being put in these positions where men can take back control, where we're getting married, because it's going to start with that initial interaction. It's going to start with that meeting. It's going to start with
Right.
that, oh, I see somebody that I like, and then you see a woman with the BBL, and then you see the other woman. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, we have to,
No, I get it.
women have to put themselves in a position where they're more desirable, and then when men have to also take control. But and I think a lot of it, like, we have a lot of women, unfortunately, picking the wrong men, and that's what we were talking about earlier. They're picking the low lives, they're picking the thugs, and then by the time they're done dealing with the thugs, now they got three
Right.
kids, and now we got podcasts of women telling men, well, even though you don't have kids, you should accept this woman who has
Right.
three
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how fair is that? There's a ton of desirable men out there who get no play from women at all.
Yeah.
While you have the same thug. I saw. Oh my God, this was so crazy
They
today.
say the
I
same the
was looking.
same 20% of men are basically impregnating pretty much all the women. They
Right,
choose
right, and
like most of these women are choosing the same template. They choose the
exactly.
same template of man. You know.
Exactly, and my opinion, you can't really blame that on men. I mean, you can go back and say, well, they should have had a father in the house, but these are the men that they were choosing, and it also goes back to, so if you have men that don't know how to treat women, you have men that don't know how to step up and become husbands and different things like that. In the black community, who's raising these men?
Got me
Seventy
there. I mean,
percent,
I know no that
70.
no. Exactly. When you a lot of times when you hear women, they complain about these men are weak, these men ain't strong, and like you just
Yeah,
said, but who's
who's
raising
raising
them?
them?
So
Right.
let's just go along with their argument. Their argument is men abandon the home. We just whatever, and we know a lot of that happened. But let's just go with
Hmm.
their argument. Okay,
Yeah.
so the men abandoned the home. Now you're raising the children. Like since 19 the mid 1960s, black women have been the matriarchs of the black community pretty much.
Hmm.
So with
Yeah.
that being said, for every LeBron James that you want to get credit for, every Carmelo Anthony, well, you need to get credit for that Pookie, that Ray, that
Right.
John that's doing a murder bid, a bid for
Hmm.
murder or whatever. So you need to,
Yeah.
you got to own all of that because you want the credit in these anomalies,
Right.
these unique situations that turn out. Oh, this kid goes off to college and become a surgeon, brain surgeon, or something like that. Whatever. Okay, you want the credit for that. Well, you need to get the credit for all this other destruction that's going on in the
Right.
community.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And I say that all the time. I saw this video that Chad Jackson has posted a while ago, but I saw it before that, and I think it was the 1970s, and it was a group of they did I think it was a news report or some kind of documentary, and they were
Right.
talking to black women. It was a group of black women, and they were talking about how they didn't need a man to raise a child. Like, I
Oh,
get
I saw
government
that. Yeah.
assistance. I don't need a man, and that is the
And
mindset
that this was
of
this
a
was
lot
like
of
30
women.
30 plus years ago.
Right, exactly, and that
So
type of
these women
mindset
have had the children.
perpetuates
They're
today.
the mothers. They're the mothers of the women today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and a lot of women have the same mindset today. Like, I don't need a man; I can do it on my own. But when
Right.
things go south, and you're creating all these thugs and gangbangers and murderers, then you're like,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's not on us. We need the men. Where did the men go? You said you didn't need us. Why should we come back if you say you don't need us? You don't need us to raise
Right.
your child, so raise them on your own. I made up this analogy today. I thought it was perfect. When people talk about, well, you should put the onus on the men, I'm like, well,
Right.
say you had say you had two car manufacturers, and they got together and started making cars together, and for 50 years they made the world's best cars. Everything was perfect. But then one of the
Right.
car manufacturers gets a call from the government, say, you know what? If you leave that other car manufacturer and start making cars on your own, then we're gonna subsidize you so you don't have to deal with them. And then the car manufacturer decides, okay, we're gonna start making cars on our own. And then the cars that they start making fall apart. They're horrible. They're horrible quality. But are you going to blame the car manufacturer who left, or are you going to blame the one who was there making the cars that said, I don't need that other person? And I think that's what's happening with a lot of women. It's like they said they didn't need us to raise these kids, they can do it on their own. Okay, so you need to be held responsible for the
Right.
results of that decision.
Man, that was yeah. You pretty much drove that home. I hard to really push back on that, man. I would say, my point of contention, and this I wouldn't really say it's a point of contention, but a lot of times when we look at men and the women and this culture, today's culture, it wants to emasculate men. It wants to
Oh
weaken the
yeah.
mentality of men, where
Right.
it drains every sense of fight out of you. And I just don't want
Hmm.
men to feel like they don't have a opportunity to voice their opinions. I don't
Oh
want
no,
men
because
to
we do.
feel like they don't. And I'm not just talking about voice your opinion on these damn red pill podcasts and spewing this nonsense. I'm
Hmm.
talking about being able to shape your lives and shape the lives of your offspring and your family, your community, by being a man of character, being a man of integrity. And that's something we don't hear that spoken of in the black community. We can talk about all these different systemic issues that are going on within the black community, but rarely do I ever hear, because if you look at it now, you got all these black women. You got the Amanda Seals, and you got the Angela Rise and the Joy Reid, and all these
Hmm.
liberal black women. But you also got a lot of these black so-called leaders in the community that's spewing and spearheading this nonsense. And I'm
Yeah.
and they feed into that whole, they don't inadvertently, they feed into that whole rhetoric of emasculating men. They don't think they're doing that, but when you're telling black women that they are so empowered and they really don't need men, but at the same time you
Right.
want to try to tell men that they need to be better fathers, and like, how
Yep.
you want to be a better father when you're teaching these women to be masculine, when you're telling these
Yep.
women to embrace their sexuality and all this strength and
Hmm.
all this other, like, you're sending two conflicting messages, and it's very
Right.
confusing to young men, and
Right.
it's very confusing to a people that consume this type of consume rhetoric that doesn't benefit them in the first place. And now you add that on top of it. So I just don't, with everything that's being said between me and you, and I respect your opinion, I just don't want men to feel like they don't have they don't have a voice, they don't have, a say so in this fight.
Yeah, no, they definitely do, and that's part of the message is to empower men to speak up, and they can say
Right,
some of the things that I say. They can say some of the things that you say, and understand
right,
their position. And that's what the main message is, that men need to take back their rightful position of leaders
right,
of our community. And we have to ignore what the women have to say. Basically, like, that's just what it is. You have to ignore whatever pushback that you get for your opinions. You have to ignore it. Like, it doesn't matter. That
facts.
doesn't mean
I
it
agree.
doesn't mean you hate women. We will never stop dealing with women. Everything that I say about
Right,
women is not because I hate women, it's because I love
right,
women, and I love our community. I love the society. And I know the only way for us to get back to a good place is that everybody gets back to their rightful position. Everybody plays the role that they're supposed to play. It's just like a basketball game. You can't have the center playing point guard. Everybody is supposed to play their role. And then when people
right,
play their role, then we are successful. And it's the only way that we will be successful is if men get back to their rightful position and take back their rightful position. That's why I said earlier, hopefully not by force, but we have to
yeah,
take back our rightful position and it doesn't wait. Like, we shouldn't care about the backlash, and that's what I was, saying earlier with the men. We cater to women because we don't want to lose access to the kitty cat. A lot of times
That's a
we
fact.
Right. And a lot of times we don't share our opinions because we don't want to lose access to the kitty cat. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of things that men feel like, oh, if I say this, then women are going to hate me. Then I won't be somebody that they would want to date or give up, the
I mean,
coochie to.
you got to look at it as a
Yeah.
conservative man. Your dating pool shrinks tremendously as a conservative.
Yeah.
That's just a fact. Like, let's just be honest. I say that all the time.
Yeah.
You're like, just
Hmm.
think, men like us, if a lot of things that we say, no matter how desirable a woman might find us, um, outwardly, or externally, the things that what is being told to women on a consistent basis, it goes against everything. What we say goes against everything that they're taught. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So when
Right.
they hear the type of things that we say, it's almost like we're speaking French. I gotta run. I can't. This is oppressive. I'm going to
Yeah.
have to be. He's suppressing my views. Like I can't. And it's like it couldn't be the furthest thing from the truth, because a lot of what these women don't realize, as men, we put a lot. Real men put a lot of pressure on themselves to produce. They put pressures
Yeah.
on themselves to commit to God, to protect their woman, to protect their children. So
Hmm.
there is a standard that I myself, and I believe you as well, that you feel like you have to live up to. But they don't view it that way. They just look at it as you're being controlling. A lot of women that's how a lot of them look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. I reject that notion. They may say controlling, but I'm just being a leader. Like that's what I was meant to be. That's what I was put on this earth to be, a leader of my family, a leader of my
Right.
community. That's what men are. But what you said about um, like women rejecting conservatives in the dating pool. Um, Sometimes that happens. Sometimes it doesn't. I think there's a lot of men who can convince their women to vote a different way. There's a lot of men who, if they have, yeah, I mean, me too, me too. My wife
Yeah.
voted Democrat just like me, but the last
Yeah.
election she voted for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
we have that power. Like, women do
Yeah.
not have the
And that's what I'm
power
saying.
of
I don't want
persuasion
men.
like we do.
I don't want men to forget that. Go ahead.
Yeah, we definitely have the power of persuasion. We can change women's minds, but there's a lot of weak and meek men who are just willing to just go along with whatever the women say, and they don't change anything. They continue to have these women with these types of mindsets, and when you look at it, women are, let's be honest, the reason that Democrats win election is because of women. It's not because
Women.
of
Yeah.
men. Yeah,
Yeah.
men vote predominantly for Republicans. So if a Democrat is in office, it's because of women. And if
Right.
that's the case, that means that men haven't been doing a good enough job of convincing the women to vote differently, convincing the women to think
Yeah.
differently. So that's
Yeah.
why, like I said,
Yeah.
and I keep saying this, we have to take back our rightful leadership positions, because if you're with a woman, she should not be voting differently than you. Like, that's
I
just what
say
it
the
is.
same thing. I say, and that's a problem. Just think about that. Just think about that. How the hell you in a household, you vote Republican and your wife, like that should, that is a clear example of a man not being a leader in his home.
Right.
The
Yep.
fact that God said that we supposed to be equally yoked.
Hmm.
The man and the woman are supposed to be one, and she is
Right.
supposed to have a desire for her husband. So if you
Hmm.
are a believer and you believe it, like, how do you guys have two conflicting views on one of the most important areas in your life, and that's
Right.
politics? And when I mean, of course, I don't put that ahead of the word of God, but I'm just saying, like, you know, politics is a reflection of man's value,
Right.
man's value system.
Yeah.
So if
Hmm.
you have a woman that believes with all this liberal ideology, and you're being and you're like how you're not able to translate or convey that that type of information to your woman. That's that's a you're an
Yeah,
abject
I gotta
failure
question
in my
your
eyes.
manhood. I gotta question your
I
manhood.
do exactly. No. I
And
agree. I
question
agree. Like
who wears the pants in the
who
house, like for real.
exactly who's running that house because it
Yep.
contrary to what a lot of what a lot of these women believe, man, there is a hierarchy. I don't
Mhm.
believe in we're equals.
Right.
There is
No, we're
hierarchy.
not. We're not. Right.
We will never be equals, and that
Right.
doesn't
If
mean
there
that I'm
if
going to suppress who you are as a woman. But
nope.
if a burglar comes into the house, you're not running downstairs to ward off this individual.
Right. To
I'm
risk
going
your
to
life.
give my life. I'm going to
Hmm.
give my life for my wife and my children. So
Right.
just by default, the man is the lead. If you even want to remove the the biblical context of that, which
Right.
I try not to do. But
Right.
let's just be honest, man. So let's
Yeah.
come on. It's a reason why Valentine's Day is celebrated more by women. It's a reason
Right.
why we open doors for women. While we walking on the sidewalk, we're walking on towards the street, and our woman. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. And I
So
always I always ask this question. It makes people very, very uncomfortable, but I just got to keep it real. And I ask this question: do men have authority over their women? And a lot of people are afraid to actually answer that question. There's a lot
oh
of women who will say, no, no, men don't have, my husband doesn't have authority over me. Well, how doesn't he? Because in order for your husband to protect you, he has to have authority over you. You cannot protect someone you don't have authority over. If somebody is breaking into the house and the husband says, "Hey, go hide in the closet and call 911. I'm going to take care of this." You if you tell him, "No, I'm not doing that. I'm going out there with you," then you're putting your life in danger and he can't protect you.
right,
So a man
yeah,
has to have authority, and that's why you talked about this hierarchy. It's definitely there because the man has
yeah.
to have authority over his wife to be able to protect her.
I say, man, you hit that one on the nail because I look at a lot of women, I mean, a lot of men. If you ask them, this is how you know if a man has some type of structure in his household. Ask a man who is the leader of the household. And if the
Hmm.
man says both of us, you can already tell like
Yep.
there's no structure. Like most men, what I've come to find, what I've come to find out that most men are even they're afraid to even. I ask
Yeah.
some men. I will say, hey man, ask your wife right now that question, and they'll say, nah, I'm not gonna ask her that.
Me and my wife talk about that all the time, and
Like
I'll put
if
it.
you're afraid to say that, like what are we talking? There's no real structure in your household if you are
Right.
afraid to put down to lay a system of structure of order
Hmm.
of foundation in your
Yep.
household. What
That's
are
what
we
men
talking
do.
about, man? Like
Right. That's a man's job.
exactly,
I would say ask the children who's the leader of the household and see what they say. If they don't say daddy, something's very wrong. I could ask my son who's the leader of the household. He'll say daddy,
right?
like without a
Yeah,
doubt.
yeah. No, I agree. No, I didn't even look at it like that.
Yeah,
That's a good point, man.
because they
That's a
observe. They
good
know
point.
what's going on.
Yeah, and we need, like I said, like you said, a country cannot survive without strong men. So look, brother, it's
Mhm.
been a pleasure. I want to bring you back to the platform because there's some other topics that I left on the cutting room floor. Um,
Mhm.
but again, man, this has been a honor, man. It's everything I thought it was going to be. I appreciate your insight. Before we
No
get
problem.
out of here, is there anything that you want to say before we get out of here, man? Again, appreciate having you on.
Yeah, I appreciate being here. Thank you all for watching. You can follow me on my social media platforms. You can go to Instagram, follow the Right Winged Angel on Instagram. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, and I'm also on YouTube. So you can go to my YouTube channel, Right Winged Angel, and watch me there. I'm just trying to save this country. I'm just trying to save our society. Y'all know what's coming in November, and I'm just trying to make sure people are prepared to vote the right way and make sure people can see what's happening, see what's going on in our country. I post a lot of things that are happening, so everybody knows what's going on, and everybody knows my perspective. And giving a conservative perspective to all the foolishness that you see out there, I think is very, very important.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, look, Oliver, man, keep doing your thing, man. Love the content. I'm going to continue to champion you, continue to support you, man, and God bless you and your family, brother. You
All right,
you
same to you, man.
take care, and you have a good night. I'm gonna let you go,
All
brother.
right, all right, you
All right,
too.
you take care.
Peace.
All right, all right. Everyone, thank you for tuning in to Making the Conservatism Look Cool podcast. Thank you. I want to give shout out to Pretty Liddy. I want to give a shout out to Hannah. I want to give a shout out to my wife. I want to give a shout out to Angel Wings for moderating. Great job as usual. Just really appreciate everybody for tuning in. I'm gonna try to keep this content coming, but love you all. You guys stay safe, stay blessed, and have a good night.